Hey Gators, welcome back. I hope that we all had a wonderful spring break. I know I did. I had some time to get outside, did lots of yard work, went for a few bike rides, enjoyed that nice weather. So I hope that you did some of the same. Today, this is your last knowledge check on fractions. So after today, you guys will be done with fractions here in grade 7. We are moving on tomorrow into our new unit on equations, and we'll talk about that more tomorrow in our live video chat using Zoom, and that'll be at 1 p.m. So let's get started. This video right here should have questions number 1, 2, and 3 from knowledge check 4. So starting off, number 1. It asked you, what is 8 and 5 over 7? Subtract 5 wholes and 3 over 7. You can all see that there. Well, going back to here last week when we were doing this type of stuff, we already see it has the same denominator. So we know right away, okay, we can just subtract the numerators, the top numbers, so 5 and 3. So I subtract 5 and 3, I get 2. I keep my denominator the same as 7. My whole numbers, an 8 and a 5. 8 minus 5 is 3. So my answer there in number 1A is 3 and 2 over 7. So 1 mark there for that answer. In B, we have 10 and 3 over 8. Subtract 3 and 3 over 8. So 10 and 3 eighths. Subtract 3 wholes and 3 eighths. So same thing here. My denominators are the same. So subtract my top numbers, my numerators. 3 minus 3, well, we get 0. Carry over my 8. I would have 0 over 8. Is that anything? Is that really a number? No, because there's 0 of them. So it's asking how many times does 8 go into 0? Well, it doesn't happen. So it doesn't exist. So we can get rid of that. Well, 10 subtract 3, we get 7. So my answer there is 7. If you wrote 7 and 0 over 8, that is still okay. It means the same thing. You just don't really need to write this part because it doesn't really exist because it's asking how many times does 8 go into 0. Well, it doesn't happen. So there's a mark there. In C, we had 12 and 13 over 16. So 12 wholes, 13 over 16, and subtract 11 wholes and 12 over 16. Well, carry over your denominator of 16. That slides over to here. 13 subtract 12 is 1. 12 subtract 11 is 1. So your final answer there, 1 whole and 1 over 16. And the last one here, I'll try to do on the bottom, might be a little bit smaller. 22 and 5 over 6, subtract 1 over 6. So your denominators are the same, 6, so carry them over. 5 subtract 1 is 4, and 22 minus, there's nothing there, so it's just 22. Could you have reduced this? Yes. So we could reduce this fraction, meaning put it into its lowest terms. So is there a number that goes into both 4 and 6? Yes, there is, and that's 2. So divide the top by 2, divide the bottom by 2. Your new fraction here becomes 2 over 3, because 2 goes into 6 3 times, 2 goes into 4 twice. Your whole number stays the same as 22 and 2/3. So there's your 4th mark there in number 1. If looking at that and you had 22 and 4 over 6, give yourself a half mark if you didn't quite put it into its lowest terms. But please remember to always, always, always do that. Okay, moving on to question number 2. Number 2, very similar to number 1. It's just a little bit more difficult because we had to find our common denominator first. So the first one, 2a, has 7 and 1 over 2. Subtract 3 wholes and 1 over 4. So like I said, in number 1, in A and B and C and D, they all had the same denominator already. So all you were doing was subtracting the top numbers and the whole numbers. But in number 2, you have different denominators. So just like all unit we've been doing, when you have to Subtract, when you have to add, you have to first find a common denominator. So a multiple that's common between 2 and 4, well, we can see that it's 4. So 4 there, 4 there. To get to my 4, I had to go 2 multiplied by 2. So I can multiply the top by 2. Did I have to do anything on the bottom to get to this 4? No, I didn't change it at all. So do I have to do anything at the top? No, it stays the same. 1 and 3 comes down. 1 times 2 is 2, and leave my whole number 7. So 7 and 2/4 minus 3 and 1 over 4 equals, well, let's subtract our numerators, our top numbers first. 2 minus 1 is 1. Over top of my denominator is now common, so it slides over to the right. 4. My whole numbers, 7 minus 3 is 4. So your final answer there, 4 and 1/4. So in number 2, I'm going to give you 2 marks per question because you're doing a little bit more. You're getting 1 mark if you found this common denominator, which was 4, and you're getting 1 mark for your answer. So 2 marks per question in number 2. B. We have 12 and 3 over 4. Subtract 6 and 3 over 8. Well, let's first find our common denominator and make our new fractions. What is a multiple of 4 and a multiple of 8? The lowest common multiple of those two numbers is 8. What did I have to do to get from this 4 to this 8? Well, I times it by 2, so I'm going to have to times my top by 2. Did I do anything over here? No, so I can just bring down my 3. What I'm really doing, if we want to kind of look at it this way, is to get from 8 to 8, I times it by 1. And to get 8 to 8 times 1, I have to times this by 1, so it's still going to become 3, if we're wondering how we got that fraction. And over here, we times the 4 by 2 to get to 8. We have to times the top by the same thing, so 3 multiplied by 2 is 6. Bring down your whole numbers of 12 and 6, and now we can subtract. 6 subtract 3 is 3. Over top of my denominator, 8. Our whole numbers, 12 subtract 6 is 6. So your final answer there, 6 and 3/8, 1 mark as well for finding that common denominator. Okay, moving on to C and D. Back to this board here. Looking at C, 4 and 11 over 16. Subtract 2 and 3 over 8. So once again, find your common denominator. My common denominator between 16 and 8. Well, what's my lowest common multiple of 16 and 8? I know that 8, counting up by 8, 8, 16. I can already see they're common. So lowest common multiple is 16. So to get from 8 to 16, I have to times by 2, times your top number by 2. Over here to get to 16, I didn't have to do anything, so bring down your 11. 2 times 3 is 6. Carry down your whole numbers. So just bringing them down here, like we've been in the past couple questions. Looking at our new fraction, so our new mixed numbers. 11 subtract 6 is 5. And 16, carry that over because that is our denominator. And 4 subtract 2 is 2. So final answer there, 2 and 5 over 16. And our next question, D. Last one in number 2 here. 4 and 2 over 3. Subtract 1 and a half. So find your common denominator. Common denominator between your 2 and your 3. Counting up by 2, we go 2, 4, 6, 8. We can already see when we got to the 6 that, well, I know 3 also goes into 6. So counting up by 3, 3, 6, we see our common denominator is 6. What did I have to do to get from a 2 to a 6? Well, I had to multiply by 3. So times the top by 3. 1 times 3 is 3. What did I have to do to get from the 3 to the 6? I times it by 2. Times your top by 2. 2 times 2 is 4. There's your new fractions. Drop down your whole numbers that you haven't done anything to yet. And we can now subtract. So 4 subtract 3 is 1 over top of our denominator 6. And our whole numbers 4 subtract 1 is 3. So final answer there, 3 and 1 over 6. 1 mark there, 1 mark for your denominator. So your total amount of marks in number 2 should be out of 8, because you're getting 1 mark if you got the common denominator. You're getting another mark if you had the right answer. Okay, so number 1 was out of 4, number 2 is out of 8. I'm going to have to cut this video short right now just because YouTube only allows us 15 minutes per video. The next video will have question number 3.